Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a feature in Aras Innovator called Extended Classification. It's built to solve a massive headache. How do you adapt your product data on the fly without having to wait weeks for IT? Let's get into it.
So, does this sound familiar? You need to start tracking a new piece of info for your products, maybe a compliance status or a new material property, and you needed it like yesterday. But the answer you get is, oh, that's a major system change. It's going to take weeks, maybe months. And right there, you've just slammed into the wall of a rigid data model. See, in a lot of systems, the data structure is just locked down tight. And that means even a tiny little change requires an administrator, which then kicks off this whole long, drawn-out development and testing cycle. Now, this rigidity, it's more than just an inconvenience, right? It's a huge bottleneck. It actively slows down innovation and stops your teams from adapting when they need to. Your data model ends up falling completely out of sync with what your business is actually doing. But what if you could just break right through that wall? This is the exact problem that Aras Innovator takes on with its extended classification feature. The idea is to empower the regular users, the non-admins, to classify things and add new properties whenever they want. So let's see how this actually works to create a much more agile system. And you know the most impressive part? It requires absolutely zero coding. This really shows the fundamental shift perfectly. On the one hand, you've got the old model, where admins control everything, and any change is painfully slow. And on the other, you have this new model, where you, the user, can manage dynamic properties that become available instantly. To really wrap your head around how this works, let's use a simple analogy. Just picture a physical filing cabinet full of all your product data. In Aras, these dynamic little fields are called extended properties, or X properties for short. The best way to think of them is like custom sticky notes. You can just create a new sticky note for anything you need to track, ROS compliant, material finish, voltage rating, and just slap it right onto a file, or in this case, a product item. Then you have extended classes, or X classes. These are basically your custom file tabs. They're what let you group related items together. So you could make an X class for mechanical components, another for high voltage electronics. You get the idea. It helps you organize everything logically. Okay, so we've got our custom sticky notes, our X properties, and our file tabs, our X classes. So how do we actually put them to work inside the system? Well, it's a surprisingly simple three-step process that you, the user, can manage directly. First, you define the new X property you need. Then you build out your classification trees, creating this nice hierarchy that makes sense for your data. And finally, you just apply those classifications to your items. That's it. And here's the magic. The moment you apply an X class to an item, all of its associated X properties just pop up. They instantly appear right on that item's form, ready for you to start putting in data. There's no waiting, no help ticket, no delay whatsoever. And look, this is way more than just a simple tagging system. You get incredibly fine-grained control over everything. You can set up properties to be inherited down through your classification tree, you can override default values for specific classes, and you can even set detailed permissions for who can see or edit this new info. Okay, so you've organized all this data beautifully. Now for the real payoff, making all this rich, new information actually work for you. In other words, finding exactly what you need when you need it. Because here's the key. Every single X property and X class you create isn't just for organization. It automatically becomes a powerful new filter that you can use in all your searches. And this just completely transforms your ability to search. You can now ask these incredibly specific questions of your data that were just impossible before. You can find items that have multiple classifications using AND logic, or search for anything that is not a certain class. You can even include all the child classes in a search with a single clip. It's so powerful. So when you put this all together, what does it really mean for you and your organization? What's the big picture takeaway here? Well, it's this. This idea fundamentally changes who controls the data model. Instead of everybody waiting in some centralized IT line, the power gets put directly into the hands of the subject matter experts, the people who actually know the data best. So let's just recap the key takeaways here. Extended classification gives you 4 huge benefits. Flexibility, so you can adapt instantly. Empowerment for your users. Incredible searchability. And all of that combines to create true business agility. You can finally stop waiting and start acting. And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about. What could you achieve if your data could finally keep up with your ideas?